You ready? All right. Good morning, everyone. This is the Economic Development and Special Development Projects Committee. It is October 19th. It's a little bit after 10 o'clock. So let's go ahead and begin our committee meeting. We'll begin with roll call. Yulby?
Roll call. Councilmember Moreno,
Present.
Councilmember Morel, Councilmember Harris,
Here.
Councilmember Green,
Present.
Councilmember Thomas.
Present.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Yulby. I'll also start with the approval of the minutes from our last meeting, September 27th. If I can get a motion, it's been moved by Councilmember Green, seconded by Councilmember Harris. Members, vote your machines, please. 4 yeas, no nays, and the minutes are approved. Will you vote? Okay, so that brings us to the one item on the agenda, discussion of ordinance calendar number 33936 concerning the Bio District New Orleans. Presenting today is Jeffrey Schwartz, Director of Economic Development for the City of New Orleans, along with Andy Copland, Chairman of the Bio District, and Blake Stanfield, Vice Chair of the Bio District. Andy, I don't know how you all want to proceed, but really the floor is yours.
Thank you, Council President and members of the committee. It's a privilege to be back here again to talk about the Bio District. We've got a presentation and it's going to focus on really two important areas today. One is the number of changes that we have made in the Bio District CEA over the past many months due to very productive discussions with folks who've raised some issues that we've had to address that have improved the accountability and responsiveness that the Bio District will have to have for this council and for the city. And secondly, we'll talk a little bit more about how this impacts and benefits the entire city by providing a growth industry, job opportunities for the people of New Orleans. The first thing I'd like to do, with your permission, Madam Councilmember, is call up a number of folks to make very brief comments in support of the Bio District, starting with President Verrett of Xavier University. And they'll each make a brief comment. And because we are delighted to have so many institutional leaders here, with your permission, we've asked them to be able to go first and then be back to their regular schedule.
I have no problem with that, but just for kind of housekeeping, if you could keep your comments to less than 2 minutes, because I'm going to enforce those rules with the others who'd like to comment. Okay,
Thank you.
thanks.
So President Verrett.
I will keep less than 2 minutes. I'm Ronald Verrett, President of Xavier University of Louisiana. I'm here to support, from Xavier's perspective, the Bio District, because it is an opportunity not only to, it brings some real tangible benefits to the city of New Orleans, expanding new industry in New Orleans, not only the educational industry that our universities provide by bringing talent and people to the city of New Orleans who work here, but also by bringing new industries, new opportunities for work in New Orleans. It also expands us beyond our traditional industries to a new industry that has the potential for actually driving the future of New Orleans. Our students who come here will come and remain in New Orleans, engage in the work that these industries will provide, and we will be giving them reasons to come here. The talent that has come to New Orleans to build the city of New Orleans is its future, and some of that talent will be attracted because this leading edge industry, which not only nationally, but will actually, New Orleans will be part of that important leading edge. We have several universities here in New Orleans already engaged in the life sciences in significant ways. That talent formation and linking to those industries is an advantage to New Orleans. So we want to provide real tangible benefit. This is not just a benefit to the universities, it's a benefit to the city of New Orleans.
Thank you, Mr. President. Now President Fitz from Tulane University.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you for welcoming me and allowing me to speak. Let me just say that this is an incredible initiative. The CEA with the New Orleans Bio District is critically important from our perspective. As you know, Tulane is a major supporter of investment in the downtown. We just announced this week a partnership with LCMC, which will, in a sense, further the original mission of the UMC as a destination healthcare. We'll have 2 destination healthcare facilities in the New Orleans region. We also are redeveloping Charity, 40% of the building, which will create 600 new jobs going forward. Just to keep it in perspective, in square footage, Charity is 6 Superdome. So this is an incredible investment going forward. We're putting $600 million into the district to support our research. We now generate about $200 million a year in research. We're moving to 300 million, which is bringing money and jobs to this region. We have a chief innovation officer. The takeaway here is we want to create businesses and jobs in the bio district. Other cities have been really extraordinary in pursuing this opportunity. Pittsburgh, with a similar bio district with universities. We think this is an incredible opportunity for New Orleans to create jobs, inclusive jobs, diverse jobs across the city. And we look forward to working with City Council and going forward to truly make this an initiative for not only the district itself, but New Orleans in general. So we urge our strong support for this initiative. Thank you for letting me speak.
Thank you, President Fitz. And now Nicole Honore from the LSU Health Sciences Center.
Hi, good morning. I'm Nicole Honore. I'm the Assistant Vice Chancellor for Economic Development and Strategic Initiatives at LSU Health, which you know is the public medical research and training and healthcare institution here. We are thrilled to be here supporting this. This is a long time coming. This initiative has been over 15 years, and a lot of us have been working together. In particular, the universities now are already working much more closely together, and we're excited that the city now sees an avenue to join with us in creating this, to put some city investment and citywide support into this initiative. As Dr. Fitz mentioned, cities in other parts of the country that have had success in building these districts have done it through the public-private partnerships that come out of these areas, and support from the cities are really important. We also want to acknowledge that this is the benefits that will come from this, out of the jobs, out of the training, out of the opportunities for growth and economic impact, are not going to just benefit the citizens that live in the bio district. This will benefit people across the region who can get the training and the resources and the jobs to come forward. Like Tulane, LSU Health is in the midst of a sizable capital investment here in the bio district already. We're in the midst of about $400 million of investment in state, federal, and our institutional and private funds to build the capital investment to enhance our research, expand our ability to support startups, and to continue to grow this region. We think that our efforts will be very complemented by your support of the bio district and help enhance our institutional partnerships as well as our corporate partnerships. So we also join in all of our colleagues in urging your support of this. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Honore. And now Dr. DeGroy from the Sidney Collier the Sidney Collier campus of Delgado Community College.
Good morning and happy Wednesday. I am Dr. Teresa DeGroy, and I work as the Executive Dean for Delgado Sidney Collier site. So thank you all for this opportunity to speak today on behalf of the Bio District. I am extremely proud, we all are, for the Bio District for their vision and desire to support and meet the needs of higher education. And I am sure you have had multiple people to address you with why they believe the Bio District is vital to our community. Well, let me speak as a parent of an 11-year-old who is excited about growing up and going to college someday to pursue a degree in healthcare, who will most likely leave New Orleans after college, like many students that attend Xavier, Tulane, LSU Health Science, and Delgado, to pursue better opportunities. If we want to change what happens often after students graduate from our local colleges, then we should invest in opportunities that will attract them. You as leaders can provide these students with a reason to stay in New Orleans with your support of the Bio District. Each year, Delgado Community College produces more than 1,200 nurses and allied health professionals. It would be wonderful if we could keep those educated and productive citizens right here in New Orleans. As I am sure you are aware, Delgado is in the process of building a state-of-the-art nursing and allied health facility that will attract more healthcare professionals. And we want their talents to stay right here in New Orleans and invest in our community. Therefore, we are proud to support the Bio District and the positive impact that they will have on our community and the city of New Orleans. It is time to try something different that will set New Orleans apart from others, not just because of the food and the culture, but because of our investment in economic growth and sustainable businesses and organizations. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you so much. And now I'd like to call up Roger Ogden, who is a trustee or commissioner of the Bio District and one of the longest serving Bio District board members. Roger.
Good morning. I have absolutely no interest in the bio district. I've never done any development, don't have any investment. But I have been working to advocate for and build this district for more than 30 years. It seems that most of my life has been spent trying to eliminate silos in the state of Louisiana and to eliminate silos in the city of New Orleans. I can't tell you how excited it makes me to see Tulane, LSU, Xavier, Delgado, all pulling in the same direction. That's what we can do to really be great in this city. Very few cities in the United States have what we have: 2 research universities, health sciences centers, a major public hospital, Safety Net Hospital and University Medical Center, LCMC and Tulane coming together. Now we have homegrown talent running the Tulane Medical Center and distributing out the services across the city so that everybody benefits from the medical side. What we don't talk enough about is the research opportunities. Research and innovation is what drives a metro area. Simply look at Austin, look at Chapel Hill and the Research Triangle, look at Nashville. And Nashville's a comparison I like because they're known for their music and fun, and yet through Vanderbilt they have and University of Tennessee efforts, they have really built up their STEM side. So I want to congratulate you. I hope we can come together unanimously on this. It's time that we learn to invest in the future, see the big picture, see New Orleans' opportunity to be excellent, to be a national leader. And then all of that prosperity, I like to talk about value creation, lifts all of us. Doesn't matter whether we're man or woman, black or white, gay or straight, it lifts all of us. And we have to think together and we have to row in the same direction. So thank you for your leadership in seeing this opportunity. Hopefully we won't miss the train again like we did with the airport in the days when in the 40s and 50s when they were putting hubs out and so many other opportunities that New Orleans has fumbled the ball on. So congratulations for your leadership and thank you for seeing this opportunity.
Thank you, Roger. Now I'd like to call another Biodistrict Board member, Lowry Curley, who's the CEO of AxoSim, a startup in New Orleans.
Hi, everyone. I want to say thank you for the opportunity to speak to you today as a growing biotechnology company here in New Orleans. AxoSim was founded to facilitate breakthroughs in the treatment of neurodegenerative diseases, and we've already found that we're having a global impact on some of the most difficult problems that we face as a society. So I founded AxoSim in 2014 based on graduate research that I did at Tulane University. And frankly, I did so in part because I wanted to stay in New Orleans. This is home. And there were not any biotechnology jobs for me to allow that. And building a company here is something that I've really dedicated myself to, and frankly, isn't the easiest path. Many similar companies that I know that have come out of some of the universities here have left, and that's for a number of reasons. The available workforce here, size of facilities, and access to capital being some of those. But I'm really proud to be here, and specifically proud that we now employ a team of 31 employees. So this is a homegrown company, all new jobs that we've created, the majority of which are either from New Orleans or have roots here. We're working with the majority of the top 25 biggest pharmaceutical companies in the entire world. They need solutions to find cures for diseases like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. And what's exciting is they're looking right here to New Orleans for the answer. And I'll say, as we've grown, our pressure to relocate has also grown. Part of that is the need for a more focused workforce development. I've had a lot of conversations with the universities represented here to start working on that, but we need resources. Access to larger facilities is a big part of this. Obviously, what's going on at Charity, can help with that, but we need more. And it's difficult for a company to build these pieces while building the company itself. So we need an entity that can drive these improvements and be a central force to bringing together companies like ours. And the Bio District, frankly, will play a critical role in building high-paying jobs by helping companies like mine and Obatala, which you will hear from. And these are life-changing companies that can operate here in New Orleans. And this is an investment in New Orleans, the future that we want and the city we want to be. So I want to thank you for your support.
Thank you, Larry. And now I'd like to call up David Bodie, who represents Dr. Trivia Frazier, the founder of Obatala Sciences, another startup in our district.
Hello, thank you for the time. Our CEO, Dr. Frazier, was unable to attend, so I'm filling in for her. I'm the Chief Operations Officer of Obatala Sciences. We are a homegrown biotechnology toolkit company that is also providing products and services to large pharmaceutical companies. Dr. Frazier is a native of New Orleans and a graduate of both Dillard University and Tulane, with 2 graduate degrees from Tulane. And Obatala began in the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center and has grown from a team of 3 to over a dozen people. And we see great potential in the future Bio District's efforts to continue to support companies like ours and continue to diversify the New Orleans economy beyond just the culture and the food into a true high research, multiple startups coming out of the great research that's happening at the university. So we are very pleased to be supportive of this effort. Thank you.
Thank you, David. And now I'd like to call Charlotte Parent, Vice President with LCMC Health and a Bio District member.
Good morning, all. My name is Charlotte Parent, and I am the Vice President of Business Development for University Medical Center, part of the LCMC Health System. I'm also a board member of the Bio District New Orleans and have previously served in the role as Health Director for the City of New Orleans. University Medical Center and LCMC Health is committed to the growth of the biomedical sector and is in full support of the CEA that has been drafted to help propel the Bio District forward. LCMC Health has a history of providing solutions to the healthcare needs of New Orleans, and we believe that the Innovation District CEA provides a collaborative solution to growing STEM industries in the heart of our city. The family of LCMC Health hospitals currently reaches across the greater New Orleans area, from New Orleans East Hospital to West Jefferson Hospital, East Jefferson Hospital to Touro and Children's, and finally to University Medical Center, sitting in the center of our great city. LCMC Health employs 10,800 people, with 2,200 of them at the UMC site. With recent announcements such as our $50 million commitment to supporting the vision of a National Cancer Institute designation in partnership with LSU and UMC being the adult hospital academic partner to the Tulane LCMC partnership, we continue to build on the strengths of our city and region to serve our immediate community as well as the state of Louisiana. Our partnerships with LSU and Tulane align our 3 institutions for a larger impact to the service of the people in our community through patient care, collaborative research, and community outreach. Academic medical centers are the birthplace of new treatments and technologies, and they provide the most complex and high-quality care. These technologies and treatments are often the drivers of growth, which create industries and jobs to improve the quality of life for our entire region. These centers are unique with trained professional experts all working together to provide patients with great care and increase access to the latest medical breakthroughs and clinical trials that are only possible with academic centers. The vision of the Bio District is aligned with our commitments and visions, but most importantly represents a collaborative approach which will help grow an industry that we all agree is important to the city of New Orleans. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Parent. Now I'd like to call on Davon Barber, the Executive Director of the Downtown Development District.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Davon Barbour, President and CEO of the Downtown Development District. Just last week, the Downtown Development District convened its annual State of Downtown Luncheon. And during this time, we used the opportunity to stress the importance of downtown's future, to review economic metrics, and also to emphasize the importance of the Bio District. We are bullish on the future of the Bio District. Downtown New Orleans is the largest employment center in the state, and it's important for us to focus on growing the economy. We believe the biosciences provides an opportunity to do that. First, the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center is located right within the heart of downtown. They are funding phenomenal companies. Just this week, or in fact, last week, we saw company Obatala Sciences secure its Series A funding We want to do everything in our power to support that company, utilizing all of DDD's resources, so that company will expand its laboratory and retain within our community. You've already heard from President Fitz and the contributions of Tulane University as it relates to downtown. We're excited about their role in the charity hospital redevelopment. Additionally, a California developer recently purchased an apartment building in the biomedical district. And according to one of the firm's executives, they state, "We found it to be a great market for job growth and migration, with all the education and healthcare employers moving." So while these investments are exciting and critical, we know that dedicated revenue stream is important to supporting philanthropic as well as private investments. So if we're serious about elevating our community as a business center, it is important that we embrace this strategy. So council members, thank you for this, and the Downtown Development District supports the CEA.
Thank you, Davon. And now I'd like to call on Calvin Mackey. This is our last speaker at this part of the presentation, the head of STEM NOLA and STEM Global.
Good morning. Thank you all for this opportunity. I'm here today to speak on behalf of STEM NOLA and, more importantly, the children of New Orleans. In the 21st century, our children only have three options. Either they're going to take something, break something, and or make something. If we don't give our children the inspiration, the skills, and the possibilities to make something, like make a living, make a life, make a difference, that only going to leave them with the two options that we see on the news every night. The Bio District represents hope for all of our children. I'd like to talk about two young people that had the opportunity to teach when I was at Tulane University, because when we hear Bio District, we think this is something lofty for people who otherwise not like the people and the children that's growing up in New Orleans. I taught two students at Tulane, one named Terrell Green, who went to McDonough 35, got a biomedical degree from Tulane and got a PhD from UC San Diego and worked for a biotech company in San Diego. I taught another young man named Darrell Dickerson who went to McMain, got a biomedical degree from Tulane and got his PhD from Purdue, where he started a tissue engineering company at Purdue. And recently he's part of a $30 million National Science Foundation Engineering Center on cellular metal material, where he's creating the materials of the 21st century. Our children deserve the possibility of coming back to New Orleans and living out those dreams. We've partnered with Obertala, we've partnered with Axosim, we've partnered with the Bio Innovation Center, and we bring our children from K through 12th grade to these facilities, into these companies. And a young lady named Balsaba Tweldy, who's now a bio major at LSU, she went into the Obertala labs and she did research on stem cells. She had the opportunity to talk to Dr. Lowry and Axosim, and we did an event with Ochsner and the Bio Innovation Center on adaptive design. And standing in the Bio Innovation Center, she said, "Dr. Mack, I didn't know nothing like this existed in New Orleans." That's the task before us, to give our children hope and let them see the possibility, but build an infrastructure that they can do it here. And the 40,000 square foot STEM Innovation Center that we're building in New Orleans East will be that hub to educate and inspire our children, so then they can come downtown and live out their life. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mackey, and thank you to our presenters, and thank you to council members for allowing those presenters with such busy schedules to go first. I'm gonna, how do I, oh, good. Looking at the wrong screen. I'm gonna skip a few things because you've just heard the vision. Urban centers that are growing jobs all have one thing in common, which is that they've created innovation districts around their universities, their anchor institutions like hospitals. This is a best practice. We're trying to put it in place in New Orleans. This is not the Research Park Triangle suburbanization of economic development. This is inclusive economic development focused on and for the people of New Orleans. And that's the best practice according to Brookings Institution. The proposal here is a revenue sharing proposal involving growth above the current baseline that the city gets. It's funded entirely by sales tax growth. If there's no growth in the district, there is no revenue for the bio district. All current revenues will be retained by the city above the current baseline, which is set in the most recent year the city has audited books for, which is 2021. It's last year. That is the baseline. It's not based on an estimate. It's based on the Department of Revenue's actual work, counting all the sales taxes earned for the city by each of the businesses within the boundaries, the redrawn boundaries per Act 354 of the legislature, the redrawn boundaries. So it's an exact number. There are some who have suggested that we should use for the baseline a number prepared by Dr. Richardson based upon his estimates. He did not have access, because sales tax data is confidential. He did not have access to the data that the city prepared. In fact, he said in his report for us, the city will have to prepare the baseline based upon exact sales tax data. He was using 2 zip codes, both of which had a portion of the biodistrict, and doing his best to estimate which revenues were part of it. So we cannot use the baseline estimate from Dr. Richardson. We actually have to use the correct baseline estimate, which is the one based upon actual receipts that the city has collected. There are no new taxes. There are no additional taxes that any taxpayer will pay. And again, the biodistrict revenues are capped. So again, there's a baseline. The city's going to retain all of the money that it currently receives. There's money above that that is shared with the biodistrict on 2 of the 2.5 cents of city taxes. And then after the cap, 100% of any growth beyond that will return to the city of New Orleans. So some will say if between now and 2039, the biodistrict annually gets every dollar that would be available under this, that means we've had spectacular economic growth, the kind of growth that our speakers have talked about. That's a high hurdle. There's no guarantee that we're going to get 56 million, which is Dr. Richardson's estimate, or 71 million, which is the maximum allowed over the next 17 years between now and 2039. But if we do, that means we've had extraordinary growth in the biodistrict itself. And that's something that will benefit the city and all of our citizens. And it's something that we're going to shoot for because that's the kind of growth that we're seeking to achieve. Next slide. It speaks a little bit. We have had a lot of different opportunities for community engagement over the last 2 years. Last year in May, we presented before the Economic Development Committee of the City Council on this very idea. Last August, we presented in front of the City Council Committee on this very idea. Last December, we presented in front of the Ad Valorem Committee of the City Council. So there were 3 public hearings on this idea in the year 2021. At the end of 2021, there were some neighbors who raised concerns that were very serious concerns about the risk to their neighborhood of the biodistrict doing what the state of Louisiana did after Hurricane Katrina, which is to buy out properties and build a hospital through the power of eminent domain and expropriation. We immediately agreed last December to give up the right of expropriation. We then engaged in a number of discussions with neighborhood leaders, particularly from Mid-City and from Gert Town, to remove residential neighborhoods from the boundaries of the district and make a number of additional changes. As I said in my opening remarks, these changes increase the burden on the biodistrict, which I chair, which Mr. Stanfield vice chairs, and which a number of members are, to be accountable to you all at the City Council, to be accountable to the taxpayers of the city of New Orleans, to be accountable to neighborhood leaders. There's a termination of the CEA allowed in this. There are no terminations allowed in any revenue sharing agreements like this that I'm familiar with. This is a first. It will make sure that the biodistrict has to perform, or the city will be able to eliminate this CEA. We then worked with the legislature and the council members to get legislation changed that changed our boundaries, removed the power of expropriation, and put in place a number of additional requirements that Mr. Stanfield is going to go through the legislative process this year. We had town meetings in Mid-City and in Gert Town. We most recently met with a group of neighborhood leaders that the Neighborhood Engagement Office set up us with on Monday of this week. We presented at the Faubourg St. John Neighborhood Association at their recommendation a couple weeks ago, where we received their endorsement. And again, we've also had committee hearings both on August 29th before the Economic Development Committee, as well as today. So we've done a lot of community outreach and made a lot of changes as a result of that community outreach. Now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Stanfield to walk through some of the many changes we've made.
Right. Thank you, Andy. We have conducted extensive negotiations with neighborhood leaders, and because we want to make this the best policy possible. And so here are some of the things that we've agreed to strengthen what we proposed in this CEA. So as Andy mentioned, there's no expropriation authority of the biodistrict. We reaffirmed that no biodistrict authority supersedes that of the city of New Orleans. We've agreed to require to make payments in lieu of taxes for the full amount that would otherwise be assessed before we acquire any property that was not previously exempt. We agreed to district standards that we required to get city council approval before developing any standards for the district identity or enforcement of such standards. On sub-districts, we agreed that we would get city council approval before creating any sub-districts. In terms of boundaries, we did extensive removal of within the boundaries of the biodistrict, removing all low-density residential neighborhoods, almost all multifamily housing, and extensive amount of commercial property from the district's boundaries. Next slide. On the master plan, the biodistrict must update the master plan and have it approved by the City Planning Commission, City Council within 12 months of signing the CEA, and approved by the City Planning Commission and the City Council every 5 years thereafter. In terms of our budget, we've agreed to present an annual budget with annual goals, deliverables, and performance measures. It must be approved by the City Council before any funds are expended and provided by the city. Termination is something Andy just mentioned as well. The City Council may terminate the CEA following a 60-day cure period. Low residential neighborhoods, again, we agreed to explicitly affirm the importance of protecting low-density residential neighborhoods from the adverse impacts of any biodistrict project. We've added a 2% annual growth rate to the baseline. We've added the inclusion of a city collections fee for managing and collecting the tax revenue on behalf of the biodistrict. We've added the requirement that the district must comply with all state and local audit requests. We worked hand in hand with DB expert in improving the equitable business opportunity provisions, making requirements that the district must meet, removing language around best efforts, and adding DBE definitions into the definition sections just to strengthen and put some teeth into our DBE requirements within the biodistrict. We required that the biodistrict produce public value equal or greater than the value of the city's contribution. We clarified that the biodistrict isn't entitled to any any interest on any revenues that are withheld by the council. And then we extended to 60 days the time allowed for the city to terminate the CEA. Those are just some, and Andy's going to cover even more of the negotiations and results of negotiations with community leaders.
Thank you, Blake. And that was the first 17. Number 18 is that we did add the city's indemnification protections to the CEA. We also required city approval explicitly. It was implicit in the prior draft of the ordinance. It's explicit now that the city by ordinance approve any bond issues or debt instruments for which funds for the CEA are used to pay debt service and interest. We added a provision, number 20, seeking that we must seek revenues for any intellectual property produced due to biodistrict investments and must share 25% of that revenue with the city without limitation. So if there's $1 billion company and we get a portion of that, a portion will go to the city without limitation at all.
And that is, I think, a really key addition. I mean, who knows what the future of the biodistrict may hold, but if we find, a cure to, I'm just throwing it out, the cancer, Alzheimer's, whatever, and we're getting 25% of what you all had put into it, like that could be huge for the city of New Orleans, as in the government of New Orleans, which is big. Yeah.
Let's cross our fingers that Obatala or Access Sim is on the way to developing that groundbreaking cure, or that somebody else coming along after them does it. Number 21, we required all college or university appointees to the district's Board of Commissioners to recuse themselves, not vote, not participate in discussions about any revenues that are going directly to them. That is a restatement of the provision of the Louisiana Code of Governmental Ethics. But we added, at the request of folks who were concerned, that they also must recuse and not participate in discussions of revenues to any other of the colleges or universities. We don't want competition unfairly fettering the decision-making of the biodistrict. We don't want people perceived as having self-interest or exercising self-interest on behalf of their institution. And so that was a provision that was added as well. And number 22 is actually, I guess you could say 22, 23, 24, 25, and 26, complying with records retention policies, including 4 years of financial records for contractors and subcontractors, grantees and subgrantees, complying with all public notice provisions for meetings as required by state law, complying with the Louisiana Code of Governmental Ethics, and complying with the constitutional prohibition on the donation of public property. The biodistrict is a public agency. We've got to follow all those public laws, but we thought it was important in response to suggestions that we've been given to add explicitly into the CEA so the public has a chance to see it and know that the biodistrict has to meet those requirements. This is a picture of the old biodistrict boundaries that include all of what was previously in the biodistrict prior to our negotiations. The yellow is what remains. So you can see, as Mr. Stanfield described, all of the residential neighborhoods have been taken out. The multifamily properties along Tulane Avenue have been taken out. Xavier, the VA, the UMC Hospital, the LSU Medical School, the Tulane Medical School, the Charity School of Nursing, those have all been left in. But it's a significant reduction in our footprint. We're not going to be able to do any kind of building activity anywhere except in the areas of yellow. We've talked a little bit, and you heard, I won't go through the why now. There's a lot of momentum in terms of the investments that our partners are making. But I'll talk a little bit about it, the kind of investments that we want to make, which is, you've heard it, and I think Dr. Mackey summarized it best. We want to make sure that young people in New Orleans have the chance to be inspired to come work in a biosciences district that's competitive nationally. We want to make sure that they have the chance to get trained for jobs in this district, whether at Sidney Collier, whether at Dillard, whether at any institution in our region, are able to, we're focusing on the training of people for jobs in the biosciences. Some of those folks may end up working at New Orleans East Hospital. Some of them may end up working at UMC or the VA. But what we're going to focus on is making sure that we've got investments in the human capital of the people of New Orleans. And that's at all different levels of jobs, entry-level jobs, PhD level jobs, and everything in between. And so what we've proposed at the biodistrict is that investments match the master planning that we've done, which really focused on a couple things. How can we make sure that the biodistrict is safe with good lighting, is accessible by transit, with transit that respects our riders as the fellow citizens that they are, with good bus shelters that provide protection from rain and from sun, and make sure that those kinds of amenities are improved in the district. And then additional investments are all the things that were part of our Build Back Better grant application about investing in human capital in partnership with our universities and colleges. Next slide talks about the revenues that are potential from Dr. Richardson's estimate. Again, those are his estimates. It's allowed up to 125% more than each of those years on an individual basis. If you don't hit a target a particular year, we can't catch up. It's limited each year. And again, we hope we hit those massive targets. If we achieve $7 million of growth in 2039, that will be because we have almost doubled the amount of economic activity in the biodistrict. If we don't hit those targets, we're not going to get any money. And the baseline that covers inflationary growth grows each year. So it starts at 11.15 million. but it's about 15.2 or 4 million by 2039, just for us to be able to have any revenue share. So the baseline was put in there, and that ensures that it's growth upon growth before the biodistrict is able to earn any revenues. Got a budget that was approved by the biodistrict as a sample. It's a sample because we know the process, as Blake described, goes to the city council. Each year, we're going to have to present a budget. You all are going to have to approve it, or we don't have any money to spend. So we don't want to suggest that we know the future. We don't want to preempt discussions with you all and other constituency groups. These are the priorities that we have, but we know there will be a process should the CEA be approved. Every year, it's a public budgeting process that is controlled by this city council, and everything is done by ordinance. And Madam Chair and members of the committee, thank you again for your time. And thank you for letting us make such an extensive presentation.
Jeff, did you have anything to say?
Thank you, council member. I think it's all been said. This is a priority of the city of New Orleans. I think in looking at the city's plan for generational economic transformation and in all the statements that we heard today, the city needs to diversify its economic base. The city needs to create opportunities for its residents and its businesses. It needs to be promoting place-based and equitable economic development. The biodistrict is our best example, our prime example for doing all of those things. This is urgent. This is not something that we can continue to kick down the road. We can even see all of the activities that are happening currently with our major institutions, but also with federal grant opportunities. This district was founded in 2005. Other cities have made incredible strides over an entire generation of young people in Birmingham, in St. Louis, in Pittsburgh have been given opportunities because of the leadership that those cities have had in growing industries such as bioinnovation and life sciences. The time is now. And you can see the incredible cross-section of leaders at institutions, in philanthropy, in the public sector, in the private sector, who all know that this is a wise and prudent investment for the city to be making. We surely will hear lots of comments today and going forward about a precious use of city resources, a use of precious city resources rather. This is a good investment on the part of the city of New Orleans, regardless of what the state does, regardless of what any of the institutions do. This is an investment that the city of New Orleans is making into a priority industry that is going to help make the future that we all want to live in. And, I can say with the utmost confidence that the administration sees this as one of its major economic development priorities. This is going to be monumental. I think that the very long windup from 2005 to today and everything that the city's been through to this point, has made it maybe seem kind of perfunctory and maybe it might never happen. It has been a huge effort on the part of the biodistrict and the city and all the partners you see here today, including the community stakeholders who have done yeoman's work. I think Andy and Blake have gone through all of the ways that they have engaged and made this a better document. It's sometimes the messy sausage making of crafting a better agreement. But I think we're standing here before the council today and for the vote tomorrow, saying that the time is now. This is a carpe diem kind of a moment. And so I'll conclude with that.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any questions from the dais at this moment?
Madam Chair, I will have questions, but I'd like to reserve them until after I've heard the other public comment.
Sure, that sounds good. Councilmember Thomas.
First of all, thank you for listening to the community and for considering a lot of the changes that were made. I think it proves that you can have a quiet discussion without having a difference publicly and potentially get things that can be done right because you're not creating disrespect and opposition. You're allowing the team or whatever it is to listen to the community, listen to the concerns, and work stuff out. I wrote down what most of the speakers said, and I'm going to kind of track those comments because I think they're important. But also I have to open up by saying, had we moved forward earlier, when everybody was trying to maintain consensus, these changes and concessions wouldn't have been made. not only would these changes and concessions wouldn't have been made, Dr. Mackey wasn't here earlier when we talked about moving forward. When you talk about a city priority, a $71 million potential investment in Central City would alter that community. In Gertown, it would alter that community. In Little Woods, New Orleans East, or Upper Nine, it would alter that community. So when you talk about making investments in business today, as I've met with business people from all over the world about pushing our community, right? And especially pushing the district I represent. There are some who do what they're doing impact investments, or they're doing impact business, which says that now that they've made their money, now that their families are comfortable, now that their businesses are comfortable, they're looking at where their next investment can make the greatest impact on human capital. Smart cities, we've heard talk about smart cities. Well, smart cities are cities that not only diversify their economy, but also diversify their investment. I heard someone talk about downtown's future. How does downtown have a future if Algiers doesn't have a future? If New Orleans East doesn't have a future? If the Seventh Ward doesn't have a future? If Central City and Gertown and Little Woods and Michoud don't have a future? We talk about science. Well, some of the growing science today is ecotourism and the science around resiliency and sustainability and how we live with water and nature. But the natural topography for that science is where? It's in the Lower Ninth Ward. It's in New Orleans East. It's in Bayou Sauvage. Someone mentioned eliminating barriers. Yeah, but what about those invisible barriers on the other side of the high rise, or on the other side of the industrial canal, or on the other side of disparaged communities? We've had universities that have made major investments in our communities. I won't name those universities. I've been around a while to have worked with them. Major grants, millions of dollars. But when the grant ran out, I was about to say they ran out. I mean, they left. When the grant was over, that office they had in that community didn't exist. They didn't maintain that satellite. I was hopeful that, because everybody was trying to get consensus on this, and I really appreciate it because I wasn't against the Bayou District. I was for my entire city. And I was hoping that science wouldn't just be in the same old box. We talk about thinking outside of the box. Well, too often investment in New Orleans is inside the same box with the same boundaries and the same players and the same institutions. You know, we got to be real about who we invest in, where we invest. It's like corporations who say they're not investing in communities because of crime, but they move their corporations in the middle of central Mexico with 5 warring cartels where hundreds of people are beheaded every day. Surely we don't have that kind of crime in urban corridors, but they blame crime. There are corporations who move to Southeast Asia and other countries, they say because of the education system. Well, the people there don't even speak the language. I think maybe the best way to start is that at least here we speak the language. And then ultimately it says, it's time to do something different. Yeah, it is. But with the same investment, in the same spaces, in the same places, with the same people. So hopefully this time to do something different is to extend and expand opportunity. Is human capital, I think Mr. Coppin said human capital. Well, when you incentivize and invest and apply it to the land, you create opportunity for the woman and the man when you start with the land. And I would hope that as we move forward, we would be studious and understand Dr. Peter Dangerfield's study that he left us, the late Dr. Dangerfield, which highlights everyone should be a student of it. There are pockets of this community that even when people thought it was going well, those pockets communities were untouched. They were not invested in. And when you talk about New Orleans East, the wealth in New Orleans East is good enough for people to be consumers. They're good enough for them to be customers, but not to have innovative investments in corridors that are connected to two of the busiest waterways in America, Michoud and GE, and $1 billion Folgers plant. And then lastly and lately, lately, and I'll end this, because I think y'all kind of got it, maybe, but we'll see how we move forward. If we continue to leave out certain parts of the community, then it threatens those parts of the community that have never been left out. And I think that's what we're seeing now. And it's time past for us to talk about what we're gonna do in certain communities, but then watch what we do in other communities. We have the same tools, money, land, incentives, inducements. We have the same opportunity in that area that hasn't been granted the opportunity. So hopefully, now that it's planned, and y'all don't have to thank me for getting y'all to get it right, but now that it's planned and changed and Dr. Mackey is here, maybe we have an opportunity to use this same plan as we overlay future growth and investment and how we make sure that the entire community is invested in, not just certain parts of the community, and hope that they get better because we invested in the same community. So thank y'all. I'd like to continue to track this and follow this. And hopefully at some point, we won't just talk about downtown. We'll talk about our town.
Councilmember Morrell.
Thank you. I'd like to begin by thanking Councilmember Moreno for her diligent work in working to address all of the public concerns that were aired by the community and to make Bio District and all the respective parties that were interested in it to work together diligently to get to where we are today. Because where we are today is very differently than where we're at. But I think it's important to talk about the city's history and when we have success with projects like this, and when we don't. Andy, in particular, when you talk about what happens when you have massive projects that are plagued without public discourse, I am often reminded of the tremendous failure that was the Plaza TIF. The Plaza TIF in New Orleans East was an absolute nightmare. And it was a nightmare because it was a TIF that was established. It was never transparent. Mayor Landrieu inherited it. And we had this constant battle between the state and local of playing hot potato as to who was going to fund the TIF and who wasn't. And it's something that post-Katrina could have led to tremendous redevelopment, but because we didn't quite get together, the council and the mayor and cooperative leadership to address the community's concerns, to really dig into whether the financials of that project ever worked, we had a pretty significant TIF that we're able to get state investment in that never happened. And because of that, the Plaza today is still an empty plot of land. We look at the recent projects in the city that have been successful. Obviously, Federal City is a TIF that we have seen development, not as much development as we like, Jeff, but we've seen development come around that in Algiers. And we look at public support, council support for projects like Bayou Phoenix in New Orleans East, which we're still diligently working to get that across the finish line. I would say that when people talk about looking at this council as a change agent, it's because we do respond to when the public has concerns. And we expect and we encourage the parties that want to push for legislation that you have to address public concerns. And I want to really thank you guys, everyone who came here today, because you've all put in the work, working with the council president to address those concerns as best as possible, including, which has never really happened, pausing a negotiation to go to the legislature to redraw a district. I mean, that is yeoman's work to say, we're just going to stop. We understand this is a problem. We're going to go change the legislation to go and get that done. So thank you all so much for putting the work in. I think this product we have today is a superior product because of all the collaboration, and I look forward to working with y'all on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Harris.
I echo those comments. I obviously heard the neighbors' concerns, I'm thankful that you reached out, that you worked with them, and that you're coming here, hopefully holding hands. I'm excited for this project in District B, but my understanding is that it will have tentacles, whatever the word is, throughout the city. So can you talk to me about pipeline programs? Because that was something that I get really excited about in talking to you all about the bio district, because we have such a pool of talented young people here that we need to keep in New Orleans. But talk to me about pipeline programs that will go into our schools to make sure that the talent that we're pulling from high schools, elementary schools stays here in New Orleans.
Thank you, Councilmember. And I would love to see a program with every high school in the city with internships in our hospitals. And again, whether it's in the bio district itself or whether it's other hospitals like the New Orleans East Hospital, we ought to be able to have internship opportunities like that. When we talk about human capital, the reason we care so much about this project is because we know we need to diversify our economy, but we need to diversify our economy for us. Right? We need to diversify our economy for the people here. And so one of the great privileges I've had at the Greater New Orleans Foundation is working with Delgado, with LCMC, with Ochsner, with the VA on a program called New Orleans Works. And it is helping folks who have been living in the shadows of our hospitals, but not being able to work there, get good jobs that pay well, that have good benefits, that have career paths, get those jobs. That's at one level, right? And the other level is when Dr. Mackey's talking about inspiring the kids of our city so that they can become, astrophysicists or biological scientists, and they can come back here, and whether they practicing astrophysics at Michaud or practicing medicine or doing research at one of our medical facilities. That's the vision that we've got. And part of what an entity like the Bio District, we can't do any of this by ourselves. And the resources, while significant, if approved in the CEA, will help us catalyze that. But we're going to be hustling for state grants, federal grants, investments. We're going to be trying to put together partnerships. Again, we're going to wake up every day trying to focus on how to make this thing thrive, create the jobs for our community, and then make sure that we've got the pipelines of talent so that folks from New Orleans who live here already can have access to those jobs in healthcare and research, and future generations can be the practitioners of those things. And that is our vision. It's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time and effort. In Houston, they started in 1940. In Birmingham, they started about 40 years ago. But we have the assets, we have the talent. And so with your help, we'll be able to try to do this. And again, I want to thank Councilmember Moreno, pushed pause a number of times since last December. Councilmember Morell and Councilmember Harris joined her back in March saying, no, we're not going to endorse this without the legislation changing. Councilmember Thomas has said, as he said this morning, no, not yet. Keep working on those things. Councilmember Green asked us to go meet with more neighborhood leaders, which we did earlier this week, another public hearing to get the word out. I don't know that everybody is on board 100% yet, and I don't want to promise that we have agreement. What I will promise is that when folks have had specific suggestions for us, we have made them in the CEA. It's still a revenue sharing for the bio district, and there's some disagreement about whether or not the level of investment is appropriate. That's a policy decision for you all to consider. But I do feel like the baseline set based on actual dollars is the correct one. And that will allow the city to retain all of its revenues, us to get growth where there's growth above the baseline of inflation. And thank you so much.
All right, we have comments, and I have told Mr. Joshua Ross, because he has a little bit of a lengthy presentation, that he could have more than 2 minutes, and after that, everyone else will get 2 minutes. Mr. Roth, come on up. And you'll be followed by Sandra Stokes.
Good morning. My name is Joshua Roth. I live in Mid-City. Last December, we found out that, As community members, we found out that someone was looking and found a notice that the CEA was coming before the council. And we hadn't been aware of it. We began engaging. And as a community, we achieved a lot of changes. We achieved a lot of changes that dealt with our neighborhood. But as we looked at the CEA and we looked at the documents that were related to the CEA, we found a lot of problems. And we found ourselves having to negotiate on behalf of the city. So all those 25 changes we saw were things that the city should have raised. They were in the city's interest. They weren't for Mid-City, they weren't for Gertown, they were for all taxpayers. And we were able to achieve an enormous amount of procedural changes within that document. There were two aspects that we weren't able to get any movement on. And the first, they are, what is the bio district going to do? We've heard from presidents of universities, we've heard representatives of organizations, and they all have their aspirations, and they have in their mind what the bio district will be doing, how it's going to achieve things, how it's going to make children be able to grow up in the city and have jobs in bioscience. It's one thing that's missing from this whole thing. There isn't a single obligation of the bio district to do anything. They don't have a master plan saying what they're going to do. So all of this is talk. We've seen at least a half dozen different PowerPoints talking about all the stuff they're going to do. I think it's time, say time out, get yourself a master plan, show us what you're going to do, and then we'll fund you. You have great ideas. If I walked into a bank and I said, I want $70 million, and they said, what are you going to do? I'm going to create a great idea for creating jobs and teaching young people and creating a bio district in New Orleans. And I'll ask, where's your plan? You have a business plan for this? No, we don't have a plan. We'll come back in a year and give you what we're going to do. And this is what they're doing to you. They're asking you on faith to commit $70 million of tax money simply on PowerPoints that aren't part of the agreement. We have to recognize that the bio district, by its legislation, cannot do projects outside the bio district. They can't do projects in Central City. They can't go to Algiers. They can't go to New Orleans East. So if they want to have an education program in New Orleans East, they're not allowed to. It's beyond their power. They just don't have it. So they're very concentrated in where they are. We saw in citation to programs in other cities, and the crowning example that they use is the Cortex plan in St. Louis. Cortex has been a moderately successful, maybe greatly successful program in building a bio district in St. Louis. St. Louis is very similar to New Orleans. Its population went from 700,000 to 400,000. They realized they needed to create an industry very similar to what we have. They had 4 universities, 4 medical schools, and they recognized that in order to keep people, they needed to invest in education, invest in training, investing in programs. You know what happened? The 4 anchor institutions formed an organization, which is their bio district organization. The city came into a system when they needed help. But there was an actual monetary investment from every one of these universities. One of them said, okay, we look through our investment portfolio, we haven't put in any money into St. Louis. So we're going to put in that $5 million. Another university said, you know, we're going to take that $5 million and put it in this central group and pool our money because we're going to take it out of operating funds because we recognize in order for us to operate, we're going to need this kind of growth. In New Orleans, and they actually formed an organization. They put together $20 million. They got another $10 million from the business community. And that organization that was typically run by those universities who realized it was their survival to get training and to keep it going. In New Orleans, the Bio District is going it alone. The only financing that they're asking for is a $70 million from the city. We've heard about the federal grant, application. Unfortunately, it wasn't granted. The Bio District organized it, but they didn't ask any money for themselves. I don't understand if they had a program, why they didn't ask any money for the Bio District. But they did ask, they did have 5 programs, or they had 6 programs with the money going to 7 different organizations. And each one of those organizations had a seat on the board of the Bio District. Bio District is a very closed community. They have, their one project that they did was bringing in money, attempt to bring in money for their constituent members. We have no idea what their plans are for the future. They've applied to the state. In fact, Dr. Richardson's, all his calculations, and we've heard all the PowerPoint programs talk about a state investment of 2 pennies on their sales tax. And the only problem is they put in an application about a year ago, longer than that, the Bio District, and there was communication back and forth. And then essentially the state initially said, well, the city gives a TIF, we'll go along with it. Said, these kind of TIFs, we limit them to 25 million. Okay. And then the state asked the $64 question. What are you going to do? Tell us how you're going to spend this money. And that's when the correspondence stopped. They want to know, what is the Bio District going to do with its money? And I think the council should be asking the same thing. Now, where is this money coming from? This is not coming from any growth that they're creating. This is sales tax. Sales tax comes from retail sales. Very simple. You go into a store, you buy something, and that sales tax came when people of New Orleans agreed that every time they buy something, they're going to take 2.5 pennies of that. Every dollar they spend, $2.50 out of every 100 is going to go to the general fund to keep the city going. And a TIF typically is a way of dedicating money that was undedicated. And the justification for it is the TIF money is coming out of new growth. It's coming out of money that the city wouldn't get. So no big deal. You put up a target somewhere, and that develops sales tax. But there's nothing that the Bio District will create in terms of sales tax. They're saying they're going to give other kinds of growth. They're going to create an industry. Now, how are they going to create? So in effect, this is not a TIF of giving sales tax money that they've created. It's money just being given to them in exchange for what they've asked for what their plan is, which we don't know what it is. And how do they get to their numbers? They use Dr. Richardson. And I handed up to you folks who you just want to see the whole use of Dr. Richardson's report is really a whole conflation. Dr. Richardson's report, as you can see, I give some experts. excerpts was created for the Spirit of Charity Innovation District. A TIF has two parts. And it's an economic engine. What is it that creates the taxes? Then it has a district where the taxes are collected. Dr. Richardson tried out different neighborhoods to see where funds could be raised in order to do the redevelopment of Spirit of Charity along with its strategic plan. And one of the territories it tried was the bio district, but it was a territory, nothing to do with the activities of the bio district. Now, so where is this money come? Since they're not producing sales tax, where's the money coming from? It's coming from normal growth that would happen without them. They've set a baseline, and we agree with their baseline. We think their baseline is at the proper level, which is 2011. The only thing is they're freezing it at, basically freezing it at 2011. Dr. Richardson recognized, and he had a base that was pretty close, but he also recognized that this was during COVID, and after COVID, the levels would increase, and they would increase up to $18 million within 5 years. The 2% increase that the city has here won't anywhere match the real recovery from COVID. The TIF is being paid out of COVID money. There's no adjustment for inflation. Every dollar that the city earned in 2021, it would now cost $1.09 to buy the same things. But basically, what the city's keeping is frozen at 2021 levels without any adjustment for inflation. The TIF numbers that you've seen put up are numbers created by Dr. Richardson based upon growth, retail growth that would come out of the Spirit of Charity. But they don't tell you, they sort of pass it by, but that isn't in the limit. They're saying we get 125% of that. Where does that 25% come from? They just gave it to themselves. And we believe that two things need to happen. One is that we need to see a master plan before the city commits $70 million. Now they're going to say there's going to approve the budgets and so forth. But how do you even know if a budget an item is a proper item if it doesn't fit into a long-term plan? And we also request that payment schedule be set up that reflects what kind of work they will actually produce. They can show some kind of value that they're going to produce. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Rock. Up next, Sandra Stokes, followed by Sharon Courtney. 2 minutes, Ms. Stokes.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you all, and thank you for hitting pause 4 out of the 5 times so far that this has been entered into the record. So we appreciate that you've taken the time to listen to us. The document is fully, greatly, amazingly better than it was. Things like the fact that the state doesn't have the full power there and the city council had none. The fact that they can't expropriate anymore is a big deal. But I think the system is really flawed, and this has brought it to our attention. It took a group of ad hoc people spending hundreds and hundreds of hours analyzing the data, chasing after the revisions of the CEAs and analyze them to find all these failures. Everyone that was listed was brought to the attention of the group by the citizens. And that's not how the system is supposed to work. It's not our job as citizens to read the legal documents, to do financial analysis, and to bring it to the attention and to fight to bring it to the attention of people in charge. And I think we need to look at this system. We still have, we're all for this, for diversified economy. Everyone in the city is for that. And this has lovely aspirational goals, but we need a concrete plan. We need the master plan, and we should have a master plan before we ever sign a CEA that commits $70 million over 17 years. We also think that we've asked from the very beginning that the city do their own legal and financial analysis, and still it's us doing it again. And I think that's something that we need to do for this and for any CEA in the future, because citizens are losing confidence. I mean, this is a real eye-opener for us. I think maybe we need to look at TIFs in a different way. Maybe TIFs, since they are a citywide function and affect everyone in the city, maybe they need to be voted on by the citizens and not put into CEAs that we have to ferret out. There's still flaws in this document. There's still financial flaws that were not addressed. The baseline has still not been addressed. The adjustment for inflation is really off. Last year, I think it was, within the last year, I think it was 8.9%.
Start to wrap it up, okay?
And we're allowing 2% per year. All we're saying is, what's the rush? Let's get it right. Let's all get it right this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stokes. Up next, Sharon Courtney, followed by Stephen Kennedy.
Good morning. I'm Sharon Courtney. I'm the Vice President for Government and Community Relations at Tulane, and I'm a member of the BioDistrict Board. I hate speaking in public, so this must be important to me, so bear with me when I stumble. I'm here today to ask for your support for the CEA. My colleague from LSU, Nicole Honore, and I have been probably working on a BioDistrict longer than anyone in this room. That's why there's no reason why cities like Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Memphis should be ahead of us, but they are, because their cities fully embraced EDS and MEDS. We need 20 AxoSems, we need 20 Obitalas. The city is not giving away money, it's investing money in the BioDistrict. But I'm here not just asking for your support today. What we really need is for you all to champion the BioDistrict. We need you every time you have an opportunity to go out and talk about economic development, cheerlead for us. We'll do the work, but we need you to support us and invest in us, and you won't regret it. Thanks.
Thank you. Stephen Kennedy, followed by Cornelius Bankston.
Good
morning, Stephen.
It's still morning. Thank you. Got some prepared remarks. I try to stay on task. Thank you, Council President Moreno and committee members, for the opportunity to share my thoughts on this tax increment financing district ordinance. All of you are aware that the need to diversify our economy is urgent and very important for the city's future. And though there is a sense of urgency to create a thriving industry, strong economies are not built overnight. Strong economies are built over time like oak trees. So it is my hope that today is the start of a new chapter in helping to build an industry that can create economic opportunities both through employment and procurement opportunities for the community. Hopefully, this TIF district can become a catalyst for new discoveries in medicine and helping grow communities across our great city. I was encouraged by my conversations a few weeks ago with both Andy and Blake regarding small business participation and economic growth in the district. Previously, I had major concerns with the CEA when it was first introduced in the previous council because I felt it wasn't clearly laying out a vision that ensured that minority businesses had an opportunity to compete for opportunities such as real estate acquisitions, landscaping, and construction, for example. Small business participation has been included in the CEA and shows that when community leaders come forward with good suggestions, they should be included in legislation to improve the overall benefits for the city. Initially, when this TIF was first put forward, once again, as I said, I had my reservations as to if the benefits of the TIF would provide benefits to the overall city. And with the changes made to the CEA based on the feedback provided, it is my understanding that now it is possible for true benefits of this legislation to be spread across the city. It is also my hope that the dialogue surrounding this TIF.
Start to wrap it up.
I'm getting down to my closing. But you made me lose my train of thought. It is my hope that the dialogue surrounding this TIF don't end today or tomorrow with the passing of this legislation. Because I think as Council Vice President Morrell alluded to, you know, sometimes these TIF districts are created and then they just go by the wayside. And I know as a part of the legislation that TIFs are really overseen by the city council. So hopefully that this council don't drop the ball in ensuring that this TIF really does what it said it's gonna do. And so I just hope that that happens. And so I wanna thank you all again for your time, and I offer my support for this ordinance, and hopefully that is passed today. And once again, making sure that this CEA goes forward and true economic opportunities exist. And so that box is important, but we have to make sure that we invest in outside of that box. I think that Council Member Thomas
that's your time.
alluded to. So thank you once
Thank
again.
you. Thank you, Mr. Kennedy. Cornelius Bankston, followed by Kate Swinburne.
Good morning. My name is
Morning.
Cornelius Bankston. I'm new to New Orleans. I'm a little nervous, so bear with me. So I moved here a year ago. I was recruited by the New Orleans Business Alliance to stand up the lab by TechPlug, powered by Healthy Blue. We are an innovation center located on Ursuline and Durgeois. So we are in the community to address health disparities on the ground. So we bring innovative health tech companies to New Orleans to address the health disparities that we see in community. I'm going to give you one example since we've been here the last year. Simple Health Kit is part of our portfolio. They develop STI tests and COVID tests. They are actually moving a lab here to New Orleans as we speak. It will be on UNO's campus. We're going to hire students in New Orleans. We're going to hire some of Dr. Mackey's students to work in the space. So what does this mean for New Orleans? I come from Atlanta. I led economic development for health for 3 years there. And so what do we need? We need a pipeline. We need a workforce that can help me do the work that I've been charged to do, not by the city, but by the people. There's a huge health disparities issue here in New Orleans. People are dying. I get a little emotional about this because in our community, right across the street, a lady OD'd. She OD'd and she was stealing water from me daily, because she didn't have access to water. There's a gentleman across the street. He lives on his front porch because he doesn't have lights. He doesn't have electricity. Why? And so the work that we're doing in communities, so we're not in a business district, we're in the community doing the hard work every day, touching the lives, bringing companies in to address this big problem that we see here in the community. Health disparities. We're 50th in health. Why? So I support the Bioinnovation District to help us continue to do the work that we're doing every day on Ursuline and Durgeois. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Kate Swinburne, followed by David Bode.
Good morning. I'm Kate Swinburne, co-founder and president of Youth Force NOLA. As many of you know, Youth Force NOLA is the nonprofit intermediary that connects businesses and schools, training providers, and community organizations with a shared vision that our public school graduates will be the most sought after talent for hiring and advancement in our region's high wage companies. So I'm here in part to answer Councilmember Harris's question around pipelines into high schools. And I'll share first that the overwhelming majority of our high school students, when given the choice to opt into career development options, career preparation options, they want to be in healthcare placements. They want to be in health sciences placements. The demand from young people for seats in training, the demand from young people for internship opportunities far exceeds the available spots every year. And so with that, the Bio District really represents an opportunity to increase access for our students from across the city, all of the wards, all of the neighborhoods, all of the zip codes, to a variety of well-paying careers in healthcare at every step on that ladder and in health sciences. The bio district's co-location model also is exciting for us in that it would increase connectivity between K-12 and higher education, so our young people have those seamless pathways into continued training and advancement. I also want to acknowledge that several bio district partners, anchor partners, are current Youth Force NOLA partners, LCMC, Ochsner Health, and the Bio Innovation Center all understand the importance of early career exposure to careers as part of building a local talent pipeline. They have connected and hosted hundreds, probably thousands of our young people for site visits at all of their sites across the city. And just this past summer, between the three organizations, hosted about 40 of our interns. And again, this is an opportunity for even more in the future. As a nonstop fundraiser, then, I also know that cultivating talent pipelines requires dedicated efforts and dedicated resources. So building programs with a dedicated revenue stream is just best practice. The proposed TIF represented in the CEA would allow the bio district to expand and thrive without tapping resources needed elsewhere. Youth Force stands ready to support an implementation, hoping it moves forward.
Thank you. David Bode, followed by Mary Maisingubala.
Thank you, Councilmember. I already.
Oh, you already
remarks
spoke.
are
Come on.
like-
Mary, come on up. Mary?
Morning. I'm Mary Maisingubala, and I thank you all for the time here. I'm a biologist and retired educator, and as such, I'm a supporter of a bio district. Biomedical research, economic development, keeping some of the best and the brightest young people here are all good things. Unfortunately, as a lifelong tax-paying resident, I'm opposed to the cooperative endeavor agreement. This document has numerous legal and financial issues that are not to the advantage of the city nor our tax-paying residents. There's no master plan, no specific projects. There has been no independent legal or financial analysis and no public outreach other than that was done primarily by the Mid-City Neighborhood Organization and word of mouth by residents. The vast amount of New Orleans residents know nothing about the CEA, and this is appalling given that this agreement will give approximately $70 million over 17 years to an unelected state board. This money will come out of our general fund, money that is desperately needed to fund our public safety, streets, drainage, garbage, youth programs, public health, parks, etc. This agreement, if approved, is setting a terrible precedent of allowing a city contract to be established without adequate city safeguards. Very notable and worrisome is that the errors and omissions in this cooperative endeavor agreement that have been corrected over the past year have been identified, brought up publicly, and corrected due to the actions primarily of ordinary citizens. Who is looking out for the city and her tax-paying residents? Another note I wanted to mention is public meetings that have been referred to were either here at City Council, some were sponsored by Mid-City Neighborhood Organization, and just recently, Monday, which was rather distressing to me, is participants were handpicked for a meeting that me and people that have been working on this project for over a year were not even told about, and that's rather distressing. Unfortunately, I do want to request that you withdraw the CEA. Have a legal outside advisor, have a legal financial outside advisor, an analysis done so that a thorough due diligence can be done and done correctly so that we can implement a biodistrict, which we desperately need for the citizens, especially our young people in the city. Let's do it right. Take your time. Thank you.
Claire Jecklin, followed by Tut Kinney.
Good morning, council members. I'm coming to you today as both the founding executive director, now CEO of New Orleans Career Center. I'm a member of the City of New Orleans Workforce Development Board. I am the youth chair. And I'm also a member of a 5-person convening representing Southern cities committed to equity and representing New Orleans. The New Orleans Career Center is set to meet the bio district where it is. And in fact, we already have pipelines and internship programs and apprenticeships in the pipeline. New Orleans Career Center works to transform our city's workforce through career and technical education. We're geared at high demand career pathways with a clear sightline to family sustaining wages. And currently a number of these partners have lined up to say, we will work with you, we will create that pathway, and we will go from 10th grade all the way through to that job that's going to get you to that career path. And part of this is public-private partnership. And so while New Orleans Public Schools have come together to provide a facility, and the Career Center has risen up to provide talent and expertise in training, and the city has lined up to partner with us, and we have federal dollars coming to New Orleans. What we absolutely need is business and industry and innovation at the table. Our federal workforce dollars are matched 50% by an employer for an internship or apprenticeship or partnership. And these programs don't go without opportunities like this. Our organization has put over 200 adults to work in healthcare over the pandemic and rapid training, and this requires an investment from employer partners. This opportunity has already started. What we want to see and what we hope to see is that these investments and opportunities that we've lined up can continue and expand into higher opportunity pathways. And we know that this is one way that we get that private-public partnership for our young people and our adults and our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Claire, can I ask Claire a question?
Go ahead, Councilmember Thomas.
Ms. Jackson, first, Claire, I visited your center. You guys do a great job. So you said you
Thank you.
already have a relationship with the district already. What does that produce?
Sure. It's a train for hire program.
Okay.
So we partner together with the hospitals to identify openings that are accessible with training that is not as far as a 4-year college degree, but is beyond a high school diploma, which is a lot of these types of jobs. We sit and plan with industry. We backwards plan from the job. We think about soft skills. We think about work-based learning. We think about exposure to HR. We think about the way that learning acquisition happens based on the job, and we do the hands-on training. So we work together and we say, look, we're going to produce 30 people for this job, and we design the training, we partner on it, and we do it. And then they have a guaranteed job at the end.
Do you have any numbers now in terms of the folk who young folk who participating?
Yeah. So currently in our partnership with LCMC Health, 75% of folks who entered the program who are unemployed and underemployed went directly to work. Of that, I believe we're at about 80%, which is much higher than normal, retaining those jobs well past 6 months.
Thank
you. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
That's awesome. Thank you. All right, Tut Kinney, followed by Jasmine Brown de Roussel. I think it says.
Ms. Marino, if I could go a minute or two over my time, I'm very sensitive to your time, but I've invested over 1,000 hours in this endeavor. I have no financial interest whatsoever, and my interest is only what's in best for the citizens of the city of New Orleans. My address is 1250 Poydras Street, across the street, and I've been there for 36 years. Let's talk about it, and I'll give you just facts. And if anybody can refute these facts, I stand ready to address that if I've made a mistake. You're giving $71 million to an entity that's been in existence for 17 years. It's already spent $2 million on a master plan. They've thrown $2 million in the garbage can. This is the same exact board made up of the same people that name the board that is on the present board, okay? Tulane, LSU, Delgado, and Xavier. They've led this board into a $2 million waste of money for a master plan that you're not going to get, already a master plan, but another master plan that you're promised in a year. Okay, they are now in debt for almost $800,000 and trying to figure out ways to beat their former director's lawsuit that he has a judgment against them for $500,000 plus interest for the last 5 years. So you're starting off with not only a entity that's failed in 17 years, but a bankrupt entity. They have $16,000 in the bank after 17 years. Now, you have platitudes. You've heard promise after promise after promise after PowerPoint. It's platitudes. There is no plan, not one single plan. Secondly, you talk about tax incremental financing. There is not one single relationship between the increase in taxes and what they produce. This is probably the only TIF in the history of the state of Louisiana that does not tie performance to the increase. Zero. Look through it, not a word. So what happens? They want the tax increase to go forward on November 1st. Based on what? November of last year. So they start off with a 9% increase in their funding. What did Mr. Copland say? They deserve that because it should be a bonus. All right. Now, let me start with this. This is not legal. Could I have a minute or two more?
Start to wrap it up.
Okay. It's not legal. This entity cannot do the things that they want to do. It has not been vetted by a single lawyer for the city. Now, I can tell you right now that I will be filing suit if this passes. I strongly suggest to the council that they get independent counsel. Go out and get your own lawyer to look at this. Okay? Get some advice so you can avoid the litigation. Nobody wants to see that.
Thank you. All right, up next, Jasmine Brown DeRussell, followed by Corey Patty.
Good afternoon, council members. Thank you so much for your time today and the opportunity to speak, but most of all for your leadership in this city and across the region. I am Jasmine Brown DeRussell, Vice President of Policy for GNO Inc. And obviously I am here today to support the Bio District. While we have heard from a number of our partners, from Youth Force NOLA to STEM NOLA, Tech Plug, and amongst other higher education partners and our partners that have been working on this for quite some time, we believe in the Bio District for a number of reasons, whether it's economic diversification, whether it's talent recruitment, whether it's workforce development, whether it's business attraction and business retention. This city needs the Bio District. We also believe in it for a personal keen interest as it relates to this city's ability to be able to foster innovation at a very unique time in history, where this city has had record-breaking exits. Just late last year, this city has seen over $2 billion in exits right here from New Orleans. So this market is validated in this time like it's never been before, coupled with the fact that our federal dollars and the opportunity to be able to leverage federal dollars in a number of ways, whether it's the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act or other vehicles. This is the time. And then also from a GNO Inc. perspective, we see the Bio District as being home to one of our initiatives, Neural NOLA. I know that the council has been briefed on that, so I won't bore you or use your time to talk more about that. But we see Neural NOLA basically as an effort to be able to leverage what's already existing here, the assets here in our higher education partners, research and development partners, as well as our wonderful hospital systems, to be able to establish New Orleans basically as the MD Anderson of neurodegenerative diseases. And so as we think about all of those efforts together, we believe that the Bio District serves as the perfect vehicle to do all of that. And not to mention inclusive innovation. Inclusive innovation is important not only to GNO Inc., but we know the city as well as the region. And so as we think about all of this in its totality, we urge you to vote in favor of the Bio District as the time is now. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Corey Patty, followed by Robert Bories.
Good morning, council members. It's good to be here with you today to discuss this important opportunity for the city. My name is Corey Patty. I serve as the Regional Economic Competitiveness Officer for the New Orleans Bioinnovation Center. And over the last several months, I've helped to support the Build Back Better Regional Challenge application that Andy has mentioned to effectively position New Orleans as a national leader in health and life sciences. Our application included projects that will build this industry from within, creating new training programs, stable jobs, and career pathways for New Orleanians who have all too often been excluded from these economic opportunities. In becoming one of 60 national finalists from more than 520 original applicant coalitions, we received some valuable feedback from the EDA, commending the vision and particularly the commitment to equitable growth that reflects the full spectrum of talent, capacity, and diversity in New Orleans. Funding BioDistrict New Orleans is a critical foundational step in this process. It represents the long-term commitment to sustainability sought by these federal agencies, as well as a down payment on the future of the city through good jobs in an impactful industry. I appreciate your time and consideration and urge your support for this measure.
Thank you so much. Robert Bories. It's our final card. Good morning.
Good morning. My name's Robert Bories. I'm a lifelong resident of New Orleans, a businessman here in the city, and I have the pleasure of being the chairman of the board of the Greater New Orleans Foundation. Without being redundant today, I know we're trying to move the schedule along, but I'm here to voice my support for this cooperative endeavor agreement. It seems to check all the boxes. Now is the right time to move forward. It creates efficient partnerships to expand research, entrepreneurship, healthcare access, create jobs, train our workforce for better jobs, keeps young, talented people here in New Orleans, and diversifies our economy. And if this project works as it should, it will affect everybody that lives in Orleans Parish in a positive way. So once again, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this and wish this project the best. And thank you, city council people, for all that you all have done. Thank you.
Thank you. Pastor Calhoun, come on up. This is our last card.
We say good morning and thank you to the council for giving us this opportunity to speak. We too were a part of the meeting of community leaders that were on Monday with Mr. Capel. What I heard was how that this district was going to go beyond its boundaries and actually impact the outlying communities with transportation to make sure that the students of the Lower Nine that has at MLK that has a bio science program can get to the training and the internships that's needed. So as I listen and I understand that there may be, because I have not read the CEA, so I cannot comment on it. But I do look at what's the value of having the bio district moving this community and this city forward. So with that, I say thank you and good morning.
Thank you and good morning. Okay, you'll be public comment online. How many in support? How many against?
So we have 38 in support and 1 against.
Okay, go ahead and read. You want to speak before the public comment, Eugene?
Oh, I'm sorry.
You want to speak after?
How much time you gonna give?
I'm just going to give them 5 minutes. You're going to read the 1 against and then read, up to 5 minutes of the ones in support, put the rest on the record.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. So the first comment, the one in opposition, comes from Michelle Schlafly. Dear council members, as leaders in our city and the steward of our tax dollars, why wouldn't you try out and fully educate yourself about a program or plan asking for our tax dollars before you buy it, or in this case, give the entire farm away by diverting dollars away from the city's general fund? What convinces you that Andy Copland and the commissioners of the Bio District will ensure that just because you give them $70 million over the next 17 years, that this money will stimulate anything to happen, much less provide better paying jobs? There is no updated Bio District master plan, so why are we even considering this purchase? The Bio District is nothing more than a used car that has been sold multiple times since 2005 without a Carfax on file. We know where it's been, but no one wants to look under the hood. And the council doesn't seem to have a solid plan to enforce this CEA. On the flip side, why not ask the Bio District to update their prior 2014 master plan and then come back to the council, so at least that which is aspirational might have something concrete to look at that is better than a pretty PowerPoint slide? It would make sense that you look at the recent DXC agreement with the state and see that investment in is not a guarantee, even with safeguards in place. Citizens of New Orleans deserve better than your carte blanche attitude about this and simply pressing your yeah button in hopes that Mr. Copland will serve as a Pied Piper and lead us down the primrose path towards the unknown, except his guaranteed retirement. That completes the comment in opposition. We'll read the comments in support. First comment comes from Patricia Weeks. They are not a paid representative. Please help New Orleans by supporting the Bio District. I am a lawyer, homeowner, parent of grown children, and committed New Orleanian. The Bio District will fuel a kind of growth in and for our city that we desperately need. If it's forward-looking, forward-thinking, and long overdue. Thank you. The next comment comes from Marissa Robertson. They are not a paid representative. Dear members of the City Council, I am writing to express my strong support for the Bio District. Further, I am hopeful that the City Council will also support this initiative. For years, it has been apparent that New Orleans needs to diversify our economy from being dependent on tourism. The Bio District is a perfect opportunity to do this by investing in healthcare services while taking advantage of significant federal funding opportunities. As a homeowner and citizen, I am invested in the future of New Orleans and appreciate creative, innovative efforts to diversify our economy in a way that helps people. Best regards. The next comment comes from Kathy Isaacson. You're not a paid representative. My name is Kathy Isaacson. Over the past years, I have worked with the Idea Village and similar organizations in our city to grow the startup and entrepreneurship community here. I believe the new Bio District will be a key part of this effort because it will be a hub where new businesses, particularly in the biomedical and tech and other industries, can grow. It will help us create new jobs for workers from all parts of the city and diversify our economy away from our traditional businesses, such as in tourism. Next comment comes from Arthur Roger. They are not a paid representative. The comment reads, I strongly support the Bio Innovation District being presently proposed for New Orleans. The proposal is a visionary effort to address the long-term healthcare needs of the New Orleans community. The proposal's collaboration among the city's major healthcare providers is especially praiseworthy. In addition, the Bio Innovation District proposal provides for extensive, equitable job growth for healthcare delivery in New Orleans. I urge passage of the proposed by the City Council. Next comment comes from Orlando Gonzalez. They are not a paid representative. Dear council members, I wanted to share a quick note to voice my support for the proposed New Orleans Bio District. As a homeowner and resident of New Orleans, I believe that we need more than anything in our city is this type of real economic development. The Bio District is an opportunity to diversify the New Orleans economy, a large number of jobs that will span from researchers and physicians to bioscience entrepreneurs, and perhaps most importantly to our local community, the many small business owners and employees that will directly benefit from the impact of this investment in our city. I have colleagues who have spent years working with companies in the North Carolina Research Triangle, and the positive economic impact it has had on that region is truly remarkable. While I understand that a number of concerns have been raised by some of our residents, I believe all of those concerns have been subsequently addressed by the Bio District Board. Lastly, the proposed incentive tax agreement is structured in such a manner that it only benefits the bio district if it is actually successful in growing sales tax revenues. The idea that a portion of those revenues would then be reinvested back into a proven engine of economic growth is something I fully support. I hope that this statement in support of the bio district will be helpful to the council as it votes on this important opportunity for the city of New Orleans.
All right, thank you, Yulby. That's your time. And add the rest to the record, please. Councilmember Green would like to make a comment, then I will wrap us up here.
Madam
Councilmember Green.
Chair and presenters today and members of the public, I just want to thank you all for this opportunity to consider this bio district proposal. I do want to just reflect upon the fact that a couple of people are aware of the fact that we've been talking about a bio district since the late 1900s. I mean, 1990s. Seems like it, but since the late 1990s. And I was the head of economic development at the time under Mayor Morial, and I did go to work for the federal government, but there was always discussion of the bio district, and we saw other cities create bio districts, and those districts result in innovations and also in investments in their bio industries that have paid off. I just want to thank the members of the public, and I know that they spent a lot of hours, and those hours have been productive because changes have been made. We're talking about 25 changes, for example. That's kind of a round number. There have been more changes. There have been meetings with neighbors and neighborhoods. Others have been brought to the table. There's been concern expressed relative to minority and women-owned business development and participation. And so a lot of that came about because the members of the public expressed themselves in a variety of ways over a number of years. In my opinion, the city of New Orleans would be much better off with a bio district than without a bio district. I also am appreciative to the public, but also the bio district for having done the two things that to me are even more important than many others when we talk about representing the city of New Orleans. The New Orleans City Council has the ability to approve the master plan within 12 months of the creation of the approval of the CEA. We also have the ability and must approve it every 5 years. So if there are changes, the New Orleans City Council can get involved with those changes. We also have responsibility of approving the budget. And I know my fellow city council members, for example, we're not going to approve a budget that doesn't reflect some permanent and long-term goals and also for our city. So I do want to thank, again, the members of the public, the members of the community who've had input over these years. I want to thank the bio district for hearing their concerns. But as a member of the city council, I'm proud and pleased, and I'm willing to take on the responsibility. And I know that the council member from that area, especially working with the council members at large who have a stake in this that is sometimes different from I as a district council member, are going to lead the effort to make sure that any investment is well done and that the dollars are well spent. That is an important consideration in my vote, that the New Orleans City Council, which represents the citizens of the city of New Orleans, has direct input in the master plan and the budget and the long-term benefits to the city of New Orleans. So again, thank you to the public, to the presenters, to the bio district board, and to the members of the council who've been involved with this process.
Thank you, Councilmember Green. All right, let me wrap us up here and then we'll vote. What a journey, right? I mean, it's been quite the ride taking on this particular CEA and working through this TIF. I too want to thank, of course, the neighborhood advocates, the experts who came forward, everyone with the bio district for their due diligence and their work in this regard. You're right, I did pull it, many times, the CEA. I think I first got the instrument during my last term toward the end of 2021, and as we started to put it out there, and this kind of goes to Councilmember Morell's point of when you present something to the public, particularly difficult legislation, you are going to get feedback that at the end of the day is going to make your product a lot better. So as we started to put it out to the public, we started to see some glaring issues that we immediately tried to correct, but our corrections were not going far enough. We needed to go to the legislature. I pulled it back a couple more times, and as we kept working and we kept hearing from neighbors, we kept improving on this CEA. And I thought we were close the last time around, and just a couple weeks ago, but there were just a few finishing touches that I thought were really important. One on the ethics piece, I thought that was really key, and who exactly would be voting on projects, and making sure that those who would benefit from the projects weren't voting on the projects. I thought that was really key to put in those considerations. And then the intellectual property piece. I think that'll be another significant benefit to the people of New Orleans should, some of these big initiatives and projects come to fruition in the future. So I think that we're finally in the right place, and in the right place where I feel comfortable moving this forward. Here in the city of New Orleans, unfortunately, sometimes because we do things the same, we stay exactly where we are. So we do need to take bold steps, but we need to take responsible, bold steps. And while I know that the bio district wanted this done, very quickly and urgently, because we pretty much are creating this model of this TIF here in New Orleans, we needed to take all of these additional steps to make sure that we got it done right, and we were careful about it. So with that, thank you for your work. Thank you for the neighbors who have voiced really strong issues with previous versions of the CEA, but I do believe that this is the right document now, and I do feel comfortable moving it forward. So with that, I'd like to make a motion to approve. It's seconded by Councilmember Morrell. 4 yeas, no nays, and it moves on to the full council tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, with
Council.
that, motion to adjourn by Councilmember Morrell, seconded by Councilmember Green. All in favor? Aye. 4 yeas, no nays.